I just found out what the abilities of Gilgamesh Vanguard Familiar does from leaks on the Discord, and unfortunately, even though I'm just grinding for it, I feel sad. I spent like 400 rerolls on Gilgamesh trying to get him Monarch, which is very sad. But unfortunately, he is absolutely mid. I'm sorry, guys. He's so mid. All right, we have enough now to get Gilgamesh. I want to talk about Gilgamesh for a little bit here. I just spent like 500 rerolls on him yesterday. My profile on Discord, if you are from Discord, is like Gilgamesh, and I really love Gilgamesh, to be honest. All right, so I'm honestly just thinking of. I spent like 500 rerolls on him yesterday. I'm honestly just thinking of just buying 3 rerolls on him because he's mid. It's confirmed that he's mid. There's no sugarcoating. There's no you don't understand the passive. He's just mid, straight up mid, mediocre, mid. Right, so not even gonna do an intro for this one. We're just gonna buy it. This will hurt, but we are gonna buy it right now, which is crazy, and we are gonna put that familiar on Gilgamesh, but it really will not do that much on him. So now he has that familiar, right? He now has that familiar. We're gonna go test him out in sandbox, and I'm gonna say right now, this is gonna be a lot of this is gonna be. I'm gonna make a separate video about Gilgamesh. And I will be talking about this as well because this showcase, there's really not a lot of things to showcase about him. I think people will not want to go after him. I mean, he's also limited. He's a limited unit, so people will not be able to get him. If you're watching this and you're a new player, you won't be able to get him. But if you're an old player thinking, should I buy the Gilgamesh familiar? The answer to that is a hard no, right? It's a hard no. You should buy rerolls instead of Gilgamesh because he is not deserving. He's just not deserving. Alright, so first, let's place him down. Let's see his starting damage. His starting damage is 7,000. That might look high, but most units past update 7 that has Monarch has that much DPS, right? And if you're comparing him in the current meta, he's just not good anymore, right? So he is kind of a cheap, all about, actually not cheap, but he does cost like 100,000 something to max out, 115,000. So we're just gonna upgrade him to max right now. We're gonna check his damage here. Alright, we're just gonna check his damage. Actually, I should just add the N. And here he has 53,000 damage. He does gain 125 damage from here. He also gets this one right here. And that's pretty nice. That's pretty nice. He also does slow enemies down and also inflict stunts on buttons for 2 seconds, which is very, very nice. But on top of that, his passive does kind of give him some pretty decent damage, right? Up to 35% attacks, ignore 50% of damage reduction. He also has 10%. Enemies below 10% HP will be instantly killed, so he's pretty good, honestly. If we were below update 7, because right now, past update 7, he's just not that good. I don't want to go too deep into his showcase because I don't want people to get the idea that he's worth obtaining if you, like, I just don't think he's worth obtaining. Even if you have Monarch on him, I think you genuinely are better off with 100 rerolls instead of getting Gilgamesh. He's good, he's usable, but almost any unit past update 7 is usable. So if you're gonna spend like 100 rerolls to get his familiar, because that's how much it costs, and you're gonna get a usable unit, I mean, it's gonna be up to personal preference now if you're going to get him, honestly. But he does 58,000 damage. His highest thing, or the thing that really kind of saves him, not really saves him even, but just, you know, makes him somewhat usable, is that his Gates of Babylon right here, up to 30, there's like stacks, right? It could stack up to 30 stack, and then he could do basically a nuke to a single enemy, which will deal for insane amounts of damage. It will deal for insane amounts of damage. I'm seeing really, really high numbers here. This Gates of Babylon thing, he could do insane amount of damage to a single enemy, which is incredibly good. And yeah, that's pretty much what he does. So he's kind of like a single target nuke that does a ton of damage. Obviously, he has his weaknesses. Like if I place down other characters right here, like Escanor, Sukuna, Kaguya, Tengen, he's gonna lose damage. He's gonna lose so much damage, as a matter of fact. Now he went from 69,000 DPS to only 52,000 DPS, which is absolutely crazy. That kind of does suck. Wait, let me just see that right there. by something. If there's other units that aren't yours, it would decrease his DPS, which does suck. Honestly, it does suck. So yeah, that's pretty much what Gilgamesh does. He does slow by 30%. That's something you could consider. Yeah, that's pretty nice. Also his, I just don't have anything left to say. I genuinely don't have anything left to say, bro. I genuinely don't have anything left to say. It's just, I spent like 500 rerolls on him yesterday. And I mean, that is my fault. I didn't wait to see what he could do. But he's just so mid. He's genuinely mid. And again, I'm gonna talk about this in a separate video. But this was done on purpose. It was done on purpose that he is kind of mediocre. Because, you know, he is limited. Like, making him super OP, I can get behind not making him super overpowered, because if you make him super overpowered, people will say that, oh, why did the Vanguard familiar get this overpowered? But he's worse than Gojo and Tengen. He is the worst Vanguard familiar out right now. He's worse than Gojo and Tengen, right? He's worse than them by a considerable margin, honestly, which sucks. That's what sucks here. He's worse than Gojo and Tengen by a considerable margin. I can get Sukuna because Sukuna's high hype as well. I could get Gojo, but Tengen, he's worse than Tengen by a considerable margin. Why? I would have at least appreciated it if he was on the level of Gojo. And I think on the level of Gojo, that would already be nice, because Gojo isn't even that high in the meta. But he's only at he's the worst Vanguard familiar by a considerable margin. And he's Gilgamesh. Here's the thing that's kind of crazy about this, right? If you would put Gilgamesh in a Vanguard familiar poll with literally any unit that's not Sukuna or Gojo, or even Gojo, honestly, or even Sukuna, Gilgamesh might win that poll. That's how hyped Gilgamesh is. You could put him in a Vanguard familiar with literally almost 99% of the units in this game, or 95% of the units in this game that could be given a Vanguard familiar, and Gilgamesh would win. That is the thing about Gilgamesh. He is such a high hype character that people expected him to be super overpowered, right? Not super overpowered. You know, you don't even need to make him super overpowered. You could have just made him, in my opinion, as good as Gojo. And that would not have broken the balance at all, because there's characters like Sukuna who is at the top 1. That's, you know, obtainable. I can't understand why he's like not super overpowered, because again, that would break the balance and beginner players would get mad. But it seems like a waste, honestly. If anybody was to see this video right now, they would not be buying Gilgamesh's Vanguard familiar, because he's just mid. Unfortunately, it feels like a waste to do this to Gilgamesh, but I could see the balance, I could see the thought process behind it, but there's a lot of ways where they could have honestly countered it. They could have made him as strong as Gojo, and people would have been happy, somewhat happy, right? But right now, he's just the worst Vanguard familiar in the entire game, which sucks quite a bit, honestly. But yeah, that's it pretty much for Gilgamesh. I'll see you guys in the next one.